Hello everyone and welcome back to Clark Trending. If you love Caitlin Clark, drop CC 100% love in the comments right now. I need to see that energy today because what I'm about to tell you is going to reframe how you understand every single thing happening inside the Indiana Fever locker room this season. Aliyah Boston said something in a closed practice setting that was never supposed to reach the public, and now that it has, the ripple effects are hitting Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and potentially the entire franchise's direction heading into the playoff push. You're going to want to stay until the very end of this one, because the final piece of context I'm going to share changes everything. Before we get into it, if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. I looked at the numbers and genuinely, almost 90% of you watching right now aren't subscribed. Hit that button. Hit the bell. It costs you nothing, and it helps this channel keep bringing you stories nobody else is breaking. Alright, let's get into it. So here's what happened. According to multiple reports that surfaced this week, during a team film session following Indiana's loss to Connecticut, Aliyah Boston made a comment to a small group of teammates that she believed she had been the Fever's most valuable player through the first half of the season. Now, the exact phrasing, according to someone present, was, "I mean, look at the film. When I'm anchoring the defense and cleaning the glass, that's when we go on our runs. I just think people don't want to see that because it doesn't fit the story." That's a direct quote as relayed by a person in the room. And here's where it gets interesting. She reportedly said this while Kelsey Mitchell was sitting 2 seats away. Now let's rewind for a second, because this doesn't exist in a vacuum. Cast your mind back to early June when Kelsey Mitchell had that post-game moment where a reporter asked her who she thought the team's most indispensable player was, and Mitchell said, I think, it depends on the night, but I've been doing this here for a long time. I know what it takes to carry this team. I've done it before." At the time, people interpreted that as a subtle shot at Caitlin Clark. But what if it wasn't aimed at Caitlin at all? What if Mitchell was responding to something already brewing with Boston behind closed doors? And who was the one player she didn't mention by name? Aliyah Boston. That's the kind of omission that tells you more than any quote ever could. Now bring it back to the present. After Boston's comment leaked, and we still don't know exactly who relayed it, Caitlin Clark was asked during a media availability about team chemistry and she said, "I think we all know what each of us brings. I'm not really interested in, ranking my teammates. I just want to win." Pay attention to her body language when she said it. She didn't smile. She didn't deflect with humor the way she usually does. She gave a flat, measured, almost rehearsed answer and moved immediately to the next question. That's not the Caitlin Clark who riffs with reporters. That was someone who had been briefed on what to avoid. And here's what most people missed. Fever head coach Stephanie White was asked a version of the same question the following day, and she said, "Every player on this roster has value. Our job is to make sure that value is, pointed in the same direction." Simple enough on the surface, right? But take note of what she chose not to do. She didn't name anyone. She didn't endorse anyone's claim. She treated it like a landmine and walked around it. So what does that tell you? If you're enjoying this breakdown, drop a like on this video right now. It genuinely helps more than you realize. Now I want you to think about the business context. Boston was the #1 overall pick in 2023. Mitchell has been the Fever's longest tenured scoring threat. And then Caitlin Clark arrived and essentially reorganized the franchise's entire commercial identity around herself. According to reports from league marketing analysts, Clark-related merchandise accounts for roughly 85% of the Fever's individual player sales. Mitchell sits around 6%. Boston's around 4%. Those numbers create a psychological environment, whether anyone admits it or not. When Boston says she's the MVP, she's not just making a basketball argument. She's making an existential one. She's saying, I still matter here. Okay, now let me put my analyst hat on for a second, because the real story isn't what Boston said, it's why it leaked now. Think about the timing. The Fever are 14 games from the playoff cutoff. They're in a dogfight for seeding. This is the exact window where internal fractures either get sealed shut by winning or blown wide open by losing. Somebody in that room heard Boston's comment and decided the public needed to hear it too. Follow the money. Who benefits from this story going viral? Not Boston. Not Mitchell. Not Clark. The only entities that benefit from a Fever Civil War narrative are opposing teams who want Indiana destabilized and media platforms that convert locker room drama into clicks. Now some people might say this is overblown, that teammates say competitive things all the time. And sure, that's true. But here's why that doesn't hold up. Boston's comment wasn't made in the heat of a game. It was made during film review, calmly, with specificity, in front of peers. That's not venting. That's a position statement. Here's what nobody is connecting. 2 weeks before this leak, the Fever quietly restructured their offensive sets to run more actions through Clark and Mitchell in late-game situations, reducing Boston's touches in crunch time by nearly 30% according to tracking data. If you connect those dots, Boston's comment wasn't spontaneous frustration. It was a direct response to a tactical decision that she felt diminished her role. She saw the writing on the schematic and she objected, just not to the coaching staff. She objected to the room. And that creates 3 possible outcomes. 1. White addresses it privately. Boston accepts a redefined role, and this dies quietly. I give that maybe a 25% chance because the leak already made private resolution harder. 2. Mitchell or Clark publicly responds, whether intentionally or through another interpreted comment, and this becomes a genuine 3-way tension that the media feeds on for weeks. I'd put that at about 45%. 3. And this is the one I think people are sleeping on. The Fever front office uses this as justification to explore trading Boston before the deadline, reorienting the roster entirely around the Clark-Mitchell backcourt. I give that a 30% chance, and if it happens, it changes the entire conference landscape. The key domino is the next 3 games. If Indiana wins, this gets buried under momentum. If they lose, especially if Boston's minutes fluctuate, every post-game press conference becomes a referendum on what she said in that room. Here's my bold prediction. Before August is over, either Aliyah Boston or Kelsey Mitchell will publicly define her relationship with Caitlin Clark in terms that cannot be walked back. One of them will draw a line. And when that happens, the Fever's front office won't be choosing between players. They'll be choosing between futures. Because what started as a comment in a film room is now a fault line. And fault lines don't care about your playoff seeding. They move on their own schedule until the ground splits. I'll see you in the next one.